Okay, so now we're going to get into some tones of the Nazgul. I'm not really going to get into the Sentient because I'm not a neck pickup type of person. It's just never been my style, so I'm not the best person to review that kind of thing. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to start with the entire gain sweep of genres just on humbucking mode. Then I'll go back and show you what it's like with the single coil mode. So to start with, we're just going to play some cleans. So it works, it's pretty good. Obviously that's generally not what you buy a Nazgul for, but you can get some good tones out of it. Okay, so the Schecter, I actually had the tone rolled off a little bit. The volume was on 10 all the way. This is a Dimarzio Tone Zone that I put in the bridge, but everything is turned all the way up. The tone's all the way up, and the volume's all the way up. So now you can hear the difference. The amp is still the same. Now I'll switch to my Les Paul. And then this is again with everything turned all the way up. So there you go, that's the basic difference between all three guitars. Okay, so right off the bat, actually, you can notice something that's very particular about the Nazgul. The Nazgul doesn't really sound like any other normal guitar pickup. And that's one thing that I actually like about it. It's actually a very good attribute. It just kind of sends out tone. So obviously the Nazgul is kind of a brighter pickup. It's almost got the mids taken out and the bass and the treble boosted. But more than just that, it really just has its own distinct sound. I feel like most other pickups generally sound like a guitar. They sound like a pickup with just minor alterations to it. I don't like my guitar to sound like a guitar. I don't like squawky. I don't like twangy. I just like my tone to be straightforward, aggressive, and just sound coming at you. Really good, crisp, pleasant sound coming at you. And that's what the Nazgul offers. You'll see that more as we get into it. Like I mentioned before, I do have the tone rolled off on here because I wanted to get a pleasant sound. So this is what it sounds like with the tone all the way up. Rolling off the tone gave me more of a clean sound, so that's why I did it. So it is a higher output pickup, as you can see by the way it starts to break up already. Okay, now I'm going to show you that I do really like the way the Sentient pairs with the Nazgul. So I'm going to keep everything all the way up. Mostly for this kind of stuff, kind of Metallica clean almost, where reason that I'm just not a fan of most bridge pickups and the Sentient not really doing it for me either. You can get good sounds out of them, but they're not sounds that make you feel awesome. They're not ideal sounds. They're not like, okay, I want my guitar to sound like this, so I can use this pickup to get that sound. It's like, oh, it's got some surprise tones in it that seem to work. This, using both of them, I really like that kind of sound. I could shape it a little further to make it even better to my ear, but the point is that's why I like the way they pair together. That's why I really like the Nazgul by itself, is that the tones it does give you might be a surprise still, but they're tones that just make you say, wow, yes, that's what I want. It really does have a, well for me, have a really precise height to find that super sweet spot. So I fiddled with it for quite a bit. It's about 1/3 of an inch away, so it's not super close, but it's not super backed off. It's basically in the middle, but it was really a precise thing where I was like, okay, another quarter turn, a little less, and then I found a really good spot. Now let's crank it up and get just some like light rock type stuff. This is back to the Nazgul by itself. I've got the tone all the way up. Let's just see what that sounds like. So more on the chords is, you can kind of hear what I was saying where it just sounds, it's got a really big full sound to it. The thing about the Nazgul is that it's very harmonically rich. So it doesn't, as you turn up the gain on like higher metal tones and stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily distort quicker. I know it is right now on the cleaner, but that's not so much noticeable on the higher gain channels. But what you do notice is a fuller sound. Okay, so the Schecter, like I said, everything was up that time. Staying here, everything's up all the way. using Les Paul, bridge pickup, everything's turned all the way up. So I do have the bridge pickup backed off quite a bit on the Les Paul, just because I needed that for the tone out of the pickup I wanted to be more woody. So that's affecting the output of it. So there you're more listening to the voicing. When we get into higher gain, it'll be able to keep up and still give that rockin' sound. So now would be a good time to show you the sweep of the tone pot on the Schecter, because it's not a smooth transition. Basically from 10 all the way to about 3, it's a very, very subtle difference in that entire range. Watch. That's about 3. So from 1 to 4, you can play with it and it's actually like a wah. So that can be a good thing because that can be like really fun to play with, but I look at it as kind of a negative because the combination of the fact that there's no numbering and it's a really low friction pot, like I said, compared to the volume, which I think is perfect, it's just a lot more difficult with that setup like that. So now I'll just play you some rock tones. I have the tone control backed off a little bit just because that's what I like. So. That was a full. Okay, so let's move on. Fuck off, okay? I'm trying to have a conversation with my shoulder, little shoulder here.
I'm very brave and a very strong tool. I mean,
Everything's all the way up. So I don't know if you can tell, but already there's less punch and less fullness and saturation of tone. Okay, check out the Les Paul. So less gain, less sustain because it's backed off, but you can tell it's punchier than the Tone Zone was. Like I said earlier, it's very punchy and articulate pickup, so it doesn't have the effect of where you can roll it off and get a really nice clean sound. The notes are still going to be very aggressive. Okay, so and I'm picking very softly, actually. So. This is almost all the way off. So we're at like 1, maybe 0.5, and now we're finally at a cleaner tone, and you can see from the EQ that it's pretty low gain. So it's not terrible. It's just not exactly practical. It's not exactly ideal. Basically what you're using your volume for is to find your perfect tone. You're not really going to have a lot of range with this guitar. Okay, so now it's time to get into some metal tones. So I'll just jump right in. I do have the tone setting adjusted to a spot in the middle to get the best tone that I like.
Listen.
How much is
Just
this?
listen for a minute. The sustain, listen to it.
No, you'd have to
You can go and have a bite. No, you'll still be hearing that one.
Yeah. Oh, you'd have to put.
PRS with the Tone Zone, everything's just cranked all the way up. You'll see that the tone's a little similar, so that's why I have the tone cranked up here as opposed to the Nazgul where I have it turned Okay, so Les Paul, everything is just turned up all the way because I think that sounds best. So. So people are going to want to know, just because of what the Nazgul was designed for, if it can handle, how well it can handle being downtuned like it's supposed to. So I'm using 9s for the first time in my life. I don't really like them. I'm going to be changing out of them pretty soon. But the point is, they're 9s and I'm tuned down to C standard. The amp is still the same as before, the guitar is still the same as before, and this is what it sounds like. Okay, I'm not a down-tuned player, so hopefully I was able to give you a good enough of an example of what that sounds like. To me, it sounds like it's carrying the tone still quite well, and like I said, I don't think anyone would ever down-tune to C standard with 9s. So I'm pretty impressed with that aspect of the pickup. Okay, so now this is both the Sentient and the Nazgul put together. I have the tone all the way up because I think that sounds better. So. Obviously, I would sculpt the amp a little bit differently for that, to optimize whatever tones I was going for. I guess you could use it for a rhythm, but not to be just, stereotypical. You can use it for lead stuff too. Just to show you, I'm not even going to comment on it, I'm just going to show you what the Sentient sounds like by itself. clean channels, there are some occasions and some tones I can get where I like them well enough that I might actually use them on some lower medium gain. You can get some cool blues tones out of it. There's just rare occasions on the Sentient where I'd actually say, okay, that's the best tone that I can get. So that's the only thing. I'm not totally knocking it. Okay, so I'm going to try and show you what I meant about turning up the gain, and you'll see that it increases in fullness and saturation and color and harmonics rather than just pushing the amp. This is 9 o'clock. Okay, so this is 9 o'clock. Okay, so not just a matter of pushing the amp and more gain, but it just does have a fuller sound. So let's try the Les Paul. Okay, so I would say this one more than the PRS has that kind of same effect, not just more gain, but also just a fuller, bigger sound. Alright, so the last thing I'll talk about is the coil split function, which I gotta say, I'm not a fan of. I don't think it's that great. I'm just gonna play some tones using each configuration. I'll play with the tone knob a little bit, play with the volume knob a little bit, and just show you these are essentially the best tones that I could get out of the amp. are decent tones, but this is my 15-year-old crazy, beat to hell, little customized, $400 Mexican Fender Stratocaster, just with basic pickups. The amp was configured to sound as good as it could with just that, so it's not configured to sound good with this, but that was a random pickup, random volume, whatever. I'm not a twangy person, like I said, but that sounds very beautiful, especially compared to what the Schecter was doing. This is what would be the middle pickup, which I moved, so this is just that one by itself. Back off the volume. That's just so much more usable and beautiful. Let's try something else. It's just a superior sound. Bottom pickup, bridge. I'm not even playing with the knobs, I'm just making sure they're at 10. So there you go, that's why I say it's kind of a bust, but that's not a big deal to me. I didn't buy the Schecter for that purpose. I bought it for playing, you know, classical, metal, even a lot of rock and stuff. I didn't buy it for single coils. If I want single coils, I'll just play this. No big deal, just they missed the boat on that one. So there's that. Okay, so hopefully that did a good job of showing you all the tones that this thing's capable of, and hopefully I was able to show you everything you needed to know about the actual guitar. One last thing is that just because of the cut of the body shape is you can't really lean it up against walls, pianos, whatever. You basically have to lay it down if you're not going to use it, or put it in the case. But other than that, I think that pretty much covers everything. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. I'll pay attention and help you guys out if I can.
Be excellent to each other.